per elder, without any supporting votes by others stretching forth their hands. When writing to Timothy, Paul said, "Let the older men who preside in a fine way be reckoned worthy of double honor, especially those who work hard in speaking and teaching." 1 Tim 5:17. In view of the following verse 18 and also the preceding discussion of honoring widows in a material way vs 3-16, this double honor evidently included material aid. Who are the 24 elders on heavenly thrones? In the book of Revelation, the term pre-middle-sputa-middle-ro occurs 12 times and is applied to spirit creatures. Their surroundings, dress, and actions give a clue as to their identity. The Apostle John had a vision of Jehovah's throne in heaven, surrounded by 24 lesser thrones upon which were seated 24 elders dressed in white outer garments and having golden crowns upon their heads. 4. 1-4. As the vision continued, John saw the 24 elders not only repeatedly falling down in worship before Jehovah's throne, but also taking part in the various features of the vision as it progressed. 4. 9-11. 5. 4-14. 7. 9-17. 14. 3. 19. 4. Especially were they observed joining in the kingdom proclamation to the effect that Jehovah had taken up his great power and has begun to rule as king. 11. 15-18. In ancient Israel, older men elders of Israel represented and spoke for the entire nation. Acts 3. 16. 19. 7. In the same way elders may stand for, or represent, the entire congregation of spiritual Israel. Therefore, the 24 elders seated on thrones about God might well represent the entire body of anointed Christians who, proving faithful till death, receive the promised reward of a heavenly resurrection and thrones near that of Jehovah. 3. 21. The number 24 is also significant, for it was the number of the divisions into which King David organized the priests to serve at Jerusalem's temple. The anointed Christians are to be a royal priesthood. 1 Pe 2. 9. 1 Ch 24. 1-19. Lu 1. 5-23, 57-66. Re 20. 6. See Overseer. Olive Heb. Sirith. Gr. E. Lyre. The olive tree was unquestionably one of the most valuable plants in Bible times, of equal importance with the vine and the fig tree. JG 9. 8-13. 2 Chi 5. 26. Hab 3. 17. Just 3. 12. It appears early in the Bible record. Following the flood it was an olive leaf brought back by God that indicated to Noah the recession of the waters. G8. 11. The olive tree Ole Europaea thrives on mountain slopes of Galilee and Samaria and up in the central highlands, as well as throughout the entire Mediterranean area. De 28. 40. JG 15. 5. It flourishes in rocky, chalky soil, too dry for many other plants, and it can endure frequent droughts. At the time of the Exodus from Egypt, the Israelites were promised that the land into which they would come was one of oil olives and honey, with vineyards and olive trees that they did not plant. De 6. 11. 8. 8. Jos 24. 13. Since O textoi acute muritra longo, olives, mount of 552 by slack 1 the following year. The fresh fruit contains a bitter substance that is removed by soaking the olives in brine, and the olives are then eaten raw or pickled. Their chief value, however, is in their oil, which composes as much as 30% or more by weight of the fresh fruit. One good tree can yield from 38 to 57 L 10 to 15 gallons in a year. The wood of the tree is very hard and must be seasoned for years to be of value for woodworking. The olive tree not only lives for centuries but, if cut down, will send up as many as 6 new shoots from its roots to develop into new trunks, and aged trees also will often perpetuate themselves in this way. New trees are frequently planted by using slips cut from a grown tree. Thus the psalmist's illustration is very apt when likening the blessed man's sons to slips of olive trees all around your table. PS 128. 3. Grafting. Wild olive trees growing on hillsides were often subjected to grafting with cuttings from the cultivated productive trees so that they would produce good fruit. It would seem unusual, even unnatural, to graft a wild branch onto a cultivated tree. Yet, that is what some farmers did in the 1st century. Paul referred to this unusual procedure in his illustration at Romans 11:17-24, in which he likened the Gentile Christians who became part of the seed of Abraham to branches of a wild olive tree grafted into a cultivated tree to replace the unproductive branches that were broken off and that represented the rejected natural Jewish members removed from the symbolic tree for their lack of faith. 3:28-29 This act, contrary to nature, emphasizes God's undeserved kindness toward such Gentile believers, stresses the benefits resulting to them as branches of a wild olive in receiving of the fatness of the garden olive's roots, and thus removes any basis for boasting on the part of these Gentile Christians. Compare Mount 3:10. Joe 15:1-10. Seed grafting. Groves and presses. Conditions permitting, nearly every village in Palestine had its olive grove. Its failure, as when damaged by its principal enemy, the caterpillar, constituted a grave disaster for the people. 4:9 King David had valued olive groves in the Shephelah region. 1 Ch 27:28 The mountain ridge to the east of Jerusalem about a Sabbath day's journey distant was noted for its olives in King David's day and, by Zechariah's time, was already called the Mountain of the Olive Trees. 2 Sa 15:30. Zech 14:4. Lu 19:29. 22:39. Ac 1:12 The large number of ancient stone olive presses found throughout Palestine testifies to the extensive cultivation of the tree. The gardens of that time were frequently in the nature of an orchard and often contained an olive press. Thus the garden named Gethsemane, to which Jesus retired after his Last Supper with his disciples, draws its name from an Aramaic term Gatshema middle.ne meaning an oil press. Olives were also trodden by foot at times. Mix 6:15. Figurative use. The olive tree is used figuratively in the Bible as a symbol of fruitfulness, beauty, and dignity. PS 52:8. Jer 11:16. Ho 14:6 Its branches were among those used in the Festival of Booths. Eni 8:15. La 23:40 at Zechariah 4:3-11-14 and Revelation 11:3-4. Olive trees are used as symbols of God's anointed ones and witnesses. Olive trees thrive in rocky soil, too dry for many other plants. Olives, Mount of a chain of rounded limestone hills located on the eastern side of Jerusalem, a Sabbath day's journey away, and separated from the city by the Kidron Valley. Es 11 Omar 553:23. Zech 14:4. Ac 1:12 This chain includes three major summits. Mount Scopus, the highest and most northerly, rises to about 820 meters, 2,700 feet and, hence, higher than the general elevation of Jerusalem. The so-called Mount of Offense, or Mount of Ruination, is the most southerly of the summits and rises to about 740 meters, 2,430 feet. The central summit, across from the Temple Mount, is about 812 meters, 2,664 feet at its highest point and is the one generally referred to in the Bible as the Mount of Olives. Anciently, this ridge was covered with palm, myrtle, oil, and, particularly, olive trees. Eni 8:15 From the olive trees this range got its name. During the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 CE, however, the Mount of Olives was denuded of its trees. The Jewish War, v. 523:12-4. Notable events of Bible history are associated with the Mount of Olives. King David, barefoot and weeping, ascended the Mount of Olives as he fled from his rebellious son Absalom. 2 Sa 15. 14, 30, 32 King Solomon built high places for idolatrous worship there to the right south of the Mount of Ruination, but King Josiah later made these unfit for worship. 1 Kai 11. 7. 2 Kai 23. 13, FTN in the 1st century CE Jesus Christ often met with his disciples in the Garden of Gethsemane, located on or in the vicinity of the Mount of Olives. Mount 26. 30, 36. Joe 18. 1, 2 When at Jerusalem, Jesus and his disciples customarily spent the night at Bethany on the east slope of the Mount of Olives, undoubtedly in the home of Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. Mount 21. 17. Mr. 11. 11. Lu 21. 37. Joe 11. 1 Apparently from Bethphage, near Bethany, Jesus, seated on the colt of an ass, commenced his triumphal ride over the Mount of Olives to Jerusalem. Mount 21. 1, 2. Mr. 11. 1. Lu 19. 29 And it was on the Mount of Olives that he explained to his disciples what the sign of his presence would be. Mount 24. 3. Mr. 13. 3 Finally, after his resurrection, Jesus ascended from there into the heavens. Act 1. 9-12. Olympus Omidal. Limpez. A Christian at Rome to whom the Apostle Paul sent greetings. Row 16. 15. Omer O March from a root meaning say. Second listed son of Esau's firstborn Eliphaz. A sheik of Edom. GE 36. 10, 11, 15. 1 CH1. 36. Omega. See Alpha and Omega. Omen. Anything viewed as giving some indication about the future. A situation or occurrence thought of as portending good or evil. GE 30. 27. New 24. 1 Looking for omens, as a form of divination, was specifically prohibited by God.